All right, guys, for our final project featuring the autumn, oh my gosh, autumn greetings. I almost forgot the name of it. We are going to create another beautiful card. We're going to need another piece of our plaid DSP. So I have a 3-inch strip that I've cut, and I'm going to adhere it to my card base kind of like this, right in the middle. So I'll just put my adhesive on here. And like I said, 3 inches, pretty much right smack dab down the middle, like so. Okay, I'll trim this excess piece off. And of course, I'll be able to use that for something else. All right, then you've got 2 pieces of cardstock of vanilla and this is, oh goodness, the struggle bus. It is Bumblebee, final answer. Okay, what we're going to do with this piece is we're going to use our Stamparatus once again, and we're going to stamp this one. Now, I would like to color mine with my Stampin' Blends, so that means that I'm going to use Memento Black for the coloring. If you want to use watercolor pencils and blender pens or your aqua painter, then you would want to stamp it in a permanent black ink such as StazOn. Okay, I'm just going to clean this off because we've got some Versamark on there right now. Okay, and whenever you stamp anything that needs to be colored in, just make sure you're using the right ink. So again, Memento is for coloring with blender pens, which is what I'm going to use, or I'm not blender pens, Stampin' Blends, pardon me for the terminology, Stampin' Blends. And then StazOn Black or some other permanent black ink is what you want to use, or embossing for that matter, is what you want to use if you're going to watercolor or use your watercolor pencils and blender pens, or watercoloring with your inks and paint brushes, whatever method works best for you. Okay, so I will take this piece and I want to get a nice impression of this. So I'm just going to kind of position it on here like so, and that looks pretty well centered. Just a little is going to probably go off the edge. I suppose I could turn this just a little bit so that it won't. Okay, and then I'm going to pick this up. And like I said, I'm going to stamp this in my Memento Black. So I'll ink this up really well. And of course, the nice part about this is if you mess up, you can stamp it again. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so let me pull that out and get this out of the way. All right, next, let's do some coloring. Now, this is going to take a little while, so be patient. I have kind of a good assortment of colors. I've got some Cherry Cobbler, Pumpkin Pie, Old Olive, Pretty Peacock, Daffodil Delight, and Cajun Craze. Now, if you don't have all these colors, that's completely fine. You can certainly use the colors that will work for you, and everything will be just beautiful. Okay, next, what I want to do is decide what colors are going to go where. So I'm going to start with the pumpkin, because that's what I'm going to use my pumpkin pie for, so that's really easy. Sometimes it's kind of a matter of just picking which colors you're going to put where, and then that will help you determine which colors to use when. Okay, so I put some dark pumpkin pie on here, and then we're going to blend that with the light. Actually, I want to use the other side. There we go. I find I have a little more control with the bullet end of my Stampin' Blends. I'm going to come back and add a little bit more of my dark pumpkin pie. There we go. That looks good. Okay. I think for the handle, I'll use my Old Olive. So put a little dark at the base and we'll blend that out to be light at the top. All right, next up, I'm going to take my wheat and I'll use my, let's see, this is Daffodil Delight. So I'll put some dark kind of on there, and then we'll add more color with the light and blend some of that out. The blending's not critical on this one. And I'm just going to specify right now. You can go out of the lines if you want to. Okay, next I've got a couple of leaves on here. I've got these oak leaves here, and then these maple leaves here. I think I'm going to take this maple, and make it kind of a pumpkin pie and maybe even some cherry cobbler in there. And then the oak leaves, I'll do more yellow and green. Oh, and I just realized I've got some more wheat at the bottom. So let's quick color those in before we forget. Can you hear my windows creaking? It's kind of windy out today. All right. So let's see. I was going to do pumpkin pie. And a little bit more pumpkin pie. And then maybe even some cherry. And then I think I'll go out with lighter pumpkin pie. Ooh, that looks pretty. And I've kind of got a lot of ink on here, so I know it's somewhat saturated, so I'm going to be careful so I don't bleed too far outside those lines. So I'm just almost dotting that last bit of color on there. And then I'm going to trust that it'll fill in to the edges. And if it doesn't, I can come back in and add a little color, but I don't want it to bleed too much. Okay, so there you can see. Oh, so pretty. All right, next up, we're going to do this leaf, much the same. So I will take, and I think this time I'm going to start with some cherry cobbler. And see if I like the blending this way a little better. So this is the light cherry cobbler. And we'll even put some dark on here as well. Ooh, pretty. And I'm adding just a little bit of dark on this one too. Okay, then I'm going to blend in a little more with my dark. This is my dark pumpkin pie. And then finally I'll finish up with my light pumpkin pie up at the tips. So really pretty pretty fall leaves right here. Okay, now I know that I would like, I think, both of these flowers to be yellow. Yellow is kind of the color in here that I want to highlight some more. And then I think I'm going to have these be maybe, well, actually, maybe I'll have these be Cajun Craze, and then these flowers be yellow. I think I'm going to switch to that. Okay, so on my Cajun Craze flowers, I want to put down a little dark color, and then we're going to blend all of these dark lines out to the tips of the petals. So I put dark color at the base and then blend out light. And I think what's really important about this is that you're just patient. This is a really good activity to do in front of the TV. Okay, and then light Cajun Craze. Oh, but well, and on some of these, I'm going to probably add a little bit of color lifter, and then I might also come back in and add some more dark. Yeah, we're going to have to come back and do that a little bit more. Okay, so I added some light, some darker areas. Let me blend those a little bit. And then I'm going to come back in with my light, my color lifter, and really highlight some of that and the tips of these petals way out at the edge. Now I feel like the color lifter is kind of like an invisible marker. You don't see it at first, but then it kind of pops up. once it starts to dry, and this will give us lots of highlights, which are really good. Okay, so then look at that, looks really pretty. Okay. Next, so we'll do this one much the same way. We're going to do these in yellow. So there's a little bit less impressive coloring. I'm just going to do real dark in the centers, and then we'll lighten them up at the tips. So I can kind of just go over this whole area. And then we'll add a little more lighter and a little more darker areas as needed. Just doing a little more fine blending. And once again, we'll add our color lifter. And just a couple more dots of dark. Okay, that looks good. You can kind of play at this as much or as little as you want. All right, so that looks good. Now let's come in, and I've got some Pretty Peacock. I want to use that in a few spots. I'm going to take these, I think these are like eucalyptus. So we're going to put some on here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Next, let's do our leaves. I wanted to do those with yellow and some green. Okay, so I'm going to start with a little bit of Old Olive, kind of dark, going down the center of these, like so. And then we'll put a little bit of blending with the light, and then we'll add in the yellow. Okay, last but not least, these little thingies here. I don't know what they are, but I'm going to make them cherry cobbler. So I'll put a little cherry at the base dark, and then we'll blend out to the light. And then I think the leaves will do in Old Olive. And I think I'll just do light. Okay. Now, at the very end of all of this, we're going to spritz with some of our Clear Wink Estella to get a really beautiful look. And then, of course, we'll add it to our card. Okay, so that looks just gorgeous. All right, and it took some time, didn't it? It wasn't the quickest card, but it sure is pretty. Now you can either just spritz or you can add Clear Wink Estella to this. It's kind of up to you. I like to smack it against something. So, woo! I missed, and that kind of got a little blubber on there, but that's okay. Because look at that shimmer on there, so pretty, and I actually like the blotchy look, so I think that's perfect. Okay, now we're going to adhere this to our layer of Bumblebee, and then we'll pop this up on the card. I meant to mention earlier, if you just want to put a couple of strips here, then you'll save all of this printed paper. That's fine, I get that. So you can do kind of whichever version you prefer. And then, like I said, we'll pop this up because it's just so pretty. Okay. There we go. All right, isn't that gorgeous? Now for our sentiment, I'm going to stamp Autumn Greetings and just place this on the inside. I think I will stamp it with some early espresso ink. You could do black too, it really doesn't make a huge difference. And there we go. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, such a gorgeous card. So I hope you loved these projects.